everybody, this is Tulip.
And this is Cassidy.
Oh, wait, wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast.
Hey, everybody, this is Dianne, your 40-something from the land where it is now getting dark at like 8 o'clock at night.
And this is Marnell, your co-host of Last Resort.
That is so mean.
I told Rob that because I donated to the Southgate podcast-a-thon.
Uh-huh.
And so I donated enough to get a spot on another podcast. And so he's like, should I tell Dianne that you want to co-host Spiders one time? And I'm like, I think I already worked that out. I'm like the co-host of Last Resort.
But so now you are my co-host of First Choice because you're so funny.
I am. So for those of you who don't know, I am the co-host of Dianne's other podcast for an ANC fan cast. I am the co-host of The Good Word, the preacher. What is it called?
The Good News.
The Good News.
The Gospel according to AMC's preacher.
Thank you. See, I'm so nervous about co-hosting for you on such a big podcast that I'm flummoxed.
And for those who don't know, Marnell is my youngest sister and truly my soulmate as far as sisters go.
Absolutely.
She's awesome.
Yeah, I totally am, by the way. And I live in Alaska, which makes me more awesome. So Dianne and I are now, I call us the Real Housewives of Alaska. So if you haven't already, you should go and check out our other podcast on Preacher.
We do have a Facebook page.
Check out the show, like us, share us.
Yes, please.
If you don't like us, still share us because maybe somebody else has better taste than you.
Oh my God, that was brutal.
Oh, I am brutal tonight. What did you think of Pillar of Salt? First off, like just from the get-go.
Okay, so I gave it an average rating. I thought it was 2.5 out of 5 aggressive Lucinia kisses.
Oh, see, and so we're podcasting a couple of days late because life happens. So
totally.
you gave me time to mull it over, and I raised my rating, and I totally explained why, and I will talk you guys down from giving up on Fear the Walking Dead.
Okay, I'm going to tell you before you give and explain your rating that I actually watched it again tonight to take notes for podcasting, and my rating went down.
Oh, no! Okay, so I didn't rewatch it, but I've been thinking about it. So maybe it's just I'm shining up the turd for you.
So how did you rate it?
I originally rated it 2.4 stab wounds.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm at 3.2.
Okay, so now you have to explain to the fan base why you changed your rating. And me.
Okay. So imagine a parallel universe where there is no Walking Dead Prime.
That's
Fear the
really
Walking
hard,
Dead.
but okay.
Fear the Walking Dead is a pretty good show. We're all comparing Fear the Walking Dead with Prime, and we can't do that.
Okay, I have to give you points there because it is true. Every time I watch this show, I'm like, it's no Walking Dead proper.
Right? Okay. So, and I'm not even going to try and talk you out of the Madison makes horrible decisions nonsense because I think Alexis did that for us. And there's just really no talking you down from that because, oh my God, like it should have been Madison that got stabbed.
Although I do think we have someone to loathe almost as much as Madison, and I'll get into that. But go for it.
So my other reason is I feel like Fear the Walking Dead is the not as cool little sister, so of course I identify with it.
And I'm just going to stop you again and say you are the way cooler little sister, but go ahead.
So, like, we have to remember that they're a month, maybe 2 into the zombie apocalypse.
True.
And they still think that help is coming, that like the government is going to swoop in and cure us all and rescue everybody. And we're going to go back to sipping lattes and complaining about traffic.
So
right?
Who do you get that sense from? Because I think that the kids that Chris got, no, not Chris, Chris got involved with, they were talking like that, but I don't really get that sense from anybody in our main group.
So Madison kind of thinks that.
Really?
Yeah, I really do, because she's not thinking ahead at all.
Okay.
She is like, I have to get like Nick back. I have to do this. They're not thinking. They're thinking one move ahead when really they should be thinking like 10 moves ahead.
Okay, and I've got to tell you, Alicia surfing through the apocalypse. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. Okay. And so Travis even said it in the previous episode where he's like, they're coming. And Chris is like, who's they?
Okay, yeah. Brian and I actually talked about that. So you're right. Okay.
So these people think that they're on the island and they're going to be rescued, right?
And to flashback, if we just put it in perspective, Rick is probably just waking up from his coma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm not sure you're talking me off the ledge, but I'm trying to help you.
Everyone calm the F down. You're at a 10. I need you to about a 2. So we're like a month or 2 into this, and we're taking surfing lessons instead of making weapons or fortifying the grounds or mapping out the city for gas and supplies.
Okay, I also have to say I was totally laughing at the tourists who were fishing, because the one who was like, oh, fish on! I'm like, no, that's a zombie. You're going to haul a zombie in.
Right? After walking 200 zombies off the pier,
right.
They're fishing and taking surfing lessons.
Right.
Yeah, and what drives me even more nuts about Madison is even the actress who plays her, if you watch Talking Dead, she's like, oh yeah, we got this down. We know how to kill him. We know what we're doing. No, you don't know what you're doing at all. Shut up. Like, even the actress has herself fooled about Madison. She just, there's no, I get it. I get the Madison hate.
So I can pretty much say, yeah, Brian, I hear what you're throwing down, or I see what you're throwing down.
Exactly. Brian, I agreed with you so much last episode, and you had so many great insights. Yeah. I'm honored to be taking your co-host spot.
So,
what are our numbers? We drove straight into ratings because I had to talk you all down. You got to keep watching.
Well, so before we go into numbers, I am going to say one thing. We are like a month and 2 days away from the premiere of season 7 of Walking Dead proper. So if nothing else, hang in there for that, guys.
You saw we should repost it to Biters, my little $5 bill.
Yeah.
I don't know who the artist is. I don't take any sort of credit of it, but it was a $5 bill, and instead of Abe Lincoln, it was
it was Rick.
Rick, yeah.
Holding his Colt Python, no less.
Yep, with walkers behind him and everything. Somebody had defaced a $5 bill in the most magnificent way, and it was 5 weeks till Walking Dead.
All right,
so hang in there, people.
The numbers. This week's numbers, same day viewing, 3.62 million. And I went ahead and pulled up last week's same day just to compare. Last week was 3.4 million, so they actually gained a few.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you know what they were up against?
No, tell me. Because I don't pay very much attention, so...
The Emmys.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
Okay,
so you people are still with us. Congratulations.
Okay, so let's talk about the title. The title is Pillar of Salt. And
Which
you
is
are my...
great...
it's biblical reference queen on Preacher. So you go, girl.
Yes. So if you've never listened to Preacher, I do numerology in the Bible because there's always meaning in the numbers in the AMC universe, which I didn't notice any numbers. But for those of you who don't know, Pillar of Salt refers to Lot's wife in the Bible. And there's 2 kind of mythologies surrounding her, in that when God was destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot's wife looked back on Sodom, and because of her what do I want to call it, her disobeying the angel's warnings, she was turned into a pillar of salt for looking back as Sodom was being destroyed. The other mythology is that she looked back because her daughters were married to sons of Sodom, and she was checking on her daughters, and the vision of God turned her into a pillar of salt. So looking back at a city of God's wrath, basically looking back at sin, Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt as punishment. So that's where the mythology in the Bible comes from.
And I want to add one little thing. So I read both of those, and I totally agree. The other thing that was said in the article that I looked at is that her longing for Sodom, her looking back at Sodom, meant that she was unworthy to be saved. And that's why she was turned into a pillar of salt. So she was longing for a way of life that was sinful.
Right. So that leaves me questioning...
Who is Lot's wife? Who's Lot's wife in our episode?
Yeah, who is our pillar of salt? And there's one very obvious answer, but I think there's also a couple of other people that you could kind of work that into.
Okay, so my very obvious answer was Madison.
Really?
Really?
Okay.
You know, because she's longing for Nick, and she winds up like sacrificing the hotel. I mean, because we saw the previews and we saw that they're going to be flooded by desperate people next week. Mm-hmm. So she sacrificed everything, or at least risked everything for Nick. And Alicia points it out to her.
Yep. And so I absolutely agree with that, but I don't think that's the obvious answer.
Do you think it's Ophelia?
I do.
Okay, so tell me.
So we join Ophelia in this episode sort of originally in flashbacks. She is flashing back to, she was proposed to.
Right.
Where did this come from?
Which is really cool. I like the flashback a lot. I liked getting more information about who Ophelia is.
But I thought that she just like lived with her parents behind the barber shop in downtown LA or whatever.
Well,
like, I had
so
no
she
idea
obviously
she had a life
had
of her own.
Exactly. I was going to say she obviously had a little bit of a life, but you also notice that she totally lied to her mother about being out with the girls.
Yes.
So her parents didn't know she had a life.
Yes. And so when it comes down to it, the end all is that Ophelia is going back and she's going to look for this guy named Will that proposed to her, you know, because she's lost her mother, she's lost her father, you know, and I really think that she feels like she kind of got this group to a safe place, so she felt like she could leave. Like, I think if they were still traveling, she'd still be with them.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so we see Ophelia going back to the seaside hotel bar restaurant that she was proposed to, and I don't know if she was looking for this guy or just going down memory lane, but at the end of the episode, we see her, you know, a fork in the road, and Mexico this way, USA this way, and she's going back to the U.S. to probably find Will, I would imagine.
So I will tell you that initially I thought she was looking for her dad, because you know, Brian and I are still speculating that he's alive, and she says that she understands what her mom means. She says something like, "I understand you now, Mama." And I'm like, oh, so she's totally thinking, I understand why you love Dad so much, and I'm going back and looking for Dad. But on rewatch tonight, I agree with you. I think she is actually going to look for her fiance.
Yeah, which I would have thought she would have gone back to look for her dad, because we never saw a body. So it's sort of assumed that he's going to come back at some point somehow, you know, with burned legs or something.
Right. Oh, see, I left the door open because I thought maybe the animals would be a little nicer. No, not so much. Okay, sorry. Everybody has to listen to the Shiba Inu having a fit.
See, I was the smart one. I took my dogs on like a 7-mile walk before we did this. Yeah.
So who do you think our other pillar of salt was?
I think that the other pillar, well, we started off the episode with
that family,
Francisco and Anna.
Yeah.
and they are trying to escape what I would think they would assume is Sodom. You know, this place isn't good for them anymore. And I saw an article somewhere, and I didn't get this from the episode or The Talking Dead or anything. I saw an article somewhere where they said that the little girl was sick.
Oh, and I didn't know that.
I didn't get that from anything else.
So I didn't get that little girl was sick either.
Neither did I, but somewhere in this article, maybe, well, I guess Fear the Walking Dead doesn't really have a comic, so
right.
Maybe it was a scene that was cut or something, or
they just interviewed the actors.
Right. So they think that it's no longer safe, and I thought that to mean that they're going to send the little girl when she's too sick. They're going to send her out to be
she doesn't
the walker wall.
Yeah, they don't want her to get sent to the wall of death. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that the family was leaving for that. Well, Francisco is the guy who usually delivers the oxy to Marco. And so I really think, they're on the road. They've escaped the town unnoticed, and I hate it in movies like this and shows like this when they walk down the middle of the road. Getting past that. So they're walking down the middle of the road, and you obviously hear the car for a while. You should be hyper aware, but whatever. They are seen by Marco and some of his guys, and they're looking back, So I kind of see Francisco and Anna and his daughter as kind of also another pillar of salt.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's funny is I forget the name of where Sodom is. It's like the lake, the Salt Lake of Sodom in Israel. There's actually multiple pillars. So
and it's funny that you say that, because when I looked it up tonight, there actually is a pillar that's called Lot's wife.
Yeah. And so there's multiple pillars. So I really think that we have more than one pillar in this episode. And the obvious ones are Ophelia and Madison and Francisco and Anna and their daughter. And then at the very, very end, you could even say Travis. He's not really looking back, but he does see the beacon, and I really think that Hotel Hell is going to be their Sodom.
Well, and so quite honestly, the other thing that I thought is that Elena, to some degree, is a pillar of salt because of trying to retrieve her lost nephew and get him back into the fold.
Yeah.
And now we're going way into rotting potpourri before we even get anything else done. Which is awesome, because we always go backward, you and I.
Go through this because I'm not used to the terminology for this podcast, even though I'm a religious listener, no pun intended. So that's sort of the meaning behind the name of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just going to summarize the writer and director really fast because they don't have a lot of credits. The writer is a woman named Carla Ching, and it sounds like she's a playwright and a TV writer who lives in LA. The only TV credits that I could find for her were Fear the Walking Dead and one credit for Graceland, the TV series. So I'm sure she's well known in other theater arts, but she's pretty much an unknown in the TV world, at least as far as big, And then the director is a guy named Geraldo Naranjo. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but he had an incredibly small bio. They mentioned that he was involved with 3 films: Miss Bala, I'm Gonna Explode, and Drama/Mechs. So I don't really know much about him. I wonder if they're trying to highlight some folks who are popular in Mexican or Latino theater.
Right.
So that's about all I've got on them. I do like to do a featured cast member, and I actually had a repeat this week because I really felt like in some ways this was Coleman Domingo's episode.
Okay.
Victor Strand.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. I'm not going to rehash everything I said about him the first time Brian and I talked about him, but
he better not die.
Well, yeah.
There was like 1/3 of my reason for defending this show.
Oh my God, how funny. That is so on my list. So I just wanted to tell people, I mentioned this the last time that we podcasted. I want to mention it again. The Nerdist interview that he did with Chris Hardwick was so good.
Oh,
I kind of cherry pick which Nerdist interviews I listen to. This one was totally worth it. I actually think I'd probably listen to it again. And he's so positive. He's such a cool guy. His philosophy about social media was so cool. He's like, I don't put out bad stuff on social media. I only say positive things in social media because there's already so much bad stuff in the world. I don't need to add to it.
So is he like his character now? Not like the sketchy guy that we knew in season 1, but is he kind of like the good guy, with the heart now in real life?
He's totally the good guy with the heart in real life. And it actually sounds like when he was a kid, he had a speech impediment, so he overcame that. And he and Chris Hardwick were kind of laughing about just how amazing his enunciation and voice are now. The other thing that's really interesting, and they didn't talk about this in the interview, but I found this on IMDb. He's actually an ordained minister in the Universal Life Church, which is really interesting. And I just, I'm not hugely traditionally religious by any stretch, but I thought that it was super cool. That really was reflected in just his attitude about doing good and putting out good in the world.
And see, those are the religious figureheads that give me a little bit of faith in humanity. Exactly. I don't subscribe to any organized religion, but those are the kind of people where I can get behind them no matter who they worship.
Well, and it's pretty neat because Chris Hardwick actually had really similar views about social media and not using it for harm and not hurting people with social media, which I thought was really cool because, Facebook can be really mean sometimes. And we saw in the persecution of Leslie Jones on Twitter that social media can just be so damaging. So I thought that was an awesome thing about the interview.
Chris Hardwick is very social warrior on social media. There was an episode of At Midnight recently where they do a Tag Team Tuesday where, if there's a prize, you win a prize, plus the person you're playing for on Twitter wins a prize. And he actually gave and it's completely randomized. The person that came up for one of the contestants had a GoFundMe for her cancer treatment.
Oh, wow.
And he gave her a shout out and her GoFundMe was funded in 20 minutes.
That's super cool.
So, yeah. And he does that kind of stuff all the time on At Midnight. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of using social media for good. I loved that.
That is definitely a Nerdist interview that I seek out. Coleman Domingo with Hardwick. Yeah.
And it was probably a couple weeks ago. So totally worth it. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is that for people who are back east, Coleman Domingo has a play premiering. I honestly can't remember if he said on Broadway or off Broadway, but in New York City. And my recollection is that not only did he write it, but he's performing in it.
Ah.
And he also is going to have a big part in the controversial film that's coming out called Birth of a Nation, which I'm really interested in seeing.
Really? That is not on his IMDb page yet.
Yeah, no, it'll be cool. Anyway, so that's Coleman Domingo. I just wanted to bring him back into people's consciousness because I think that he's a really interesting actor and human, and I really hope we see great things from him beyond Fear the Walking Dead.
But he better not die.
No doubt, man.
So he was stabbed this episode. And I actually, I only watched it once, but it actually took me 3/4 of the way through the episode to figure out that she stabbed him intentionally. I thought I thought that she meant to stab, what's her name?
No, she was stabbing him for being one of the two people that took out the bride.
Right,
yeah.
right. And it didn't even register to me that she knew that her daughter was alive, that the group was keeping the daughter alive. Well,
alive in quotes.
Yeah.
In air quotes.
Exactly. So yeah, that really surprised me when it kind of dawned on me that Victor was the intended victim. But it was kind of strange that it was just one gut shot. I mean, did she mean to kill him, or did she mean to make him suffer, or because she was ready with that knife. There was zero hesitation. And, I wonder what her motive behind it and what they're going to do with her, because they discussed, are we going to kill her? Are we going to cast her out? Are we going to keep her prisoner? What are we going to do?
So this is part of my epic fail. So I'm not going to discuss the whole thing right now. But I will say that when they were talking about her and whether or not they were going to turn her out on the street or basically imprison her, and Strand says she's going to have to be watched forever now. I thought, this is a callback to Lizzie.
Yes.
Because you basically have the choice of, we're going to imprison this person and watch this person like a hawk for the rest of her life, or we get this person out of our community, whether it's turning her out or killing her because she's a danger to the community.
Right. And so since that is your epic fail...
No. That wasn't my epic fail, but that was just some insight into some stuff that's loosely related to my epic fail.
Okay, so my thing is...
No. So first, what's your epic? What's your great thing?
Okay, my great thing was the very, very last scene. And no, it's not Madison turning on that damn sign. It's Travis. I'm so excited for the return of Travis.
Right, because Travis and Chris were the best episode so far in this season.
Right, and I know people are like, yee, Chris. But I'm like, you know what? We all love the Lord of the Flies. Admit it. Admit it. You cannot wait to see what those little psychos are going to do. Admit it. I just, it was a great book. It was a great movie. I love the Lord of the Flies. I can't wait. Is Chris going to go full psycho? Yeah, he killed those people, but I almost think that was how old is he? 15? That was
around that 15,
16-year-old boy's reactionary, and he had a little bravado going from being able to handle himself inside the gas station. And so it's like he wasn't thinking, more than one step ahead, and he just went boom and shot the guy. And okay, yeah, I guess the guy's dead, but that's the world now, right? Well, I really think that Chris is going to be reeled back in, and he's going to have a lot to atone for in the future, if those other little psychos don't kill him first because of his conscience.
So Travis showing up at the end was one of my epics. Both of my epics were really just small moments. And I actually thought him showing up without Chris means that we have a big tragedy that we're going to explore next week. And it's about damn time, because they need to kill somebody.
And not Strand.
Right, and not Strand.
No, I don't think Chris is dead. I think that Travis left him to his own devices. I think that Travis is finally like, I kind of think it was like a go or they're going to kill you. But I really think that Travis is like, Travis is doing what Madison needs to do with Nick. Go your own way.
Right. Oh my God.
And so I have a bold prediction about Chris, but we will wait for that.
So the only other thing that was in my epic was that shot of the Wall of the Dead from above in the cold open. They looked like a colony of ants.
Yes,
and it was so amazing. Cool. And one of the things that I thought about was, actually a colony of ants is really powerful. You see those films, those short films of them like carting off a wasp's body. Or there was one really recently on Facebook that was like this colony of ants working together to pull a worm into their colony for food.
Okay, so I actually just watched today a little video on how colonies of ants are helping scientists create new materials that are self-healing because of the way that ants react. And ants will actually become kind of a liquid if you drop like a penny. Yeah, if you drop like a penny into their little colony, the ants will move around it and the penny will float downward. And so it's kind of like a viscous liquid.
All right, you guys, this is my brilliant little sister. Go on.
They actually will form a solid. Like, so if you take like a big ball of ants and try and smush them, they will push back and be a, and so scientists are creating all kinds of new self-healing materials based on the action of ants.
That is really cool.
So yes, I thought the exact same thing, that the walkers all looked like ants. And then my second thought is, I really hope that the the name La Colina.
La Colonia.
La Colonia.
Yeah, the colony, basically.
I hope it's upwind. Right? Because, man, the off gas from that horde. See, you guys need to listen to our preacher podcast.
It's very true.
It's just me making witty quips and Diane laughing.
Pretty much. Every now and then I get a word in edgewise, but pretty much.
Every now and then.
Okay, so what was your fail? So you have epic fail, and then you have your epic fail.
I think this is my epic fail. I'm not sure. I didn't know.
Okay, so you don't have a fail. Okay.
Well, I kind of do. I'll find an epic fail, but the surfing scene. Really?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of lame too. Okay, I mean, I really thought a lot of them were still acting like tourists.
Yeah. So, like I said, like I've had a couple of days to mill it over, and they still think that the Coast Guard's going to ride in and, rescue them or whatever. And so my other half plays zombie games all the time. The one that he's on right now is Dying Light. And, he's played a couple of others that I can't think of the names right now, but maybe it's because I watch so much zombie related stuff via movies and TV and video games and things like that. Is just like, that time should be used for making weapons and fortifying your compound. I mean, they have a really sweet deal going on, and we see that really doesn't last because Madison's an idiot. Yeah.
So my fail, just my simple little thing, was just the whole coincidence of Tijuana and them having to go to Tijuana for Victor's medicine, and the fact that Elena has a nephew who's part of the Narcos group, and then Madison just totally effing everything up because she's such an idiot. And I know that The Walking Dead proper is built on coincidence. Brian and I have talked about that a number of times. I know that a lot of film and TV that we watch is built on the coincidence of connections, but it just irritated me. I knew that Nick was going to come back into this somehow, but I wanted the connection to be more natural than forced. This feels like a forced connection.
Yeah, it kind of does, other than that, granted, Nick walked for a really long time, and everyone else had the use of vehicles and everything, but they really couldn't be that far apart. So it really stands to reason that they were all going to gather somewhere at some point, except for Ophelia, who's headed north. But yeah, it does feel a little forced. And the scene with Madison, just they brought it up on The Talking Dead, where they were like, she already had a translator. She could already hear everything that they were saying.
Right.
Like, why
so
did
bursting
she have
in,
to stick her nose in? Yeah. And in the real world, just FYI, if you were to do that with somebody like Marco, he's just going to shoot you in the head.
Right.
You don't do anything to him. Just because you're top billed cast doesn't mean you're not going to get popped.
So the first watch through, I actually was like, did she completely screw everything up? Did they get the stuff that they went to the supermarket for? And then I was like, oh, okay, they did. But the first time through, I thought, she completely blew this.
Okay, I didn't even catch that they got their stuff.
They did. And I kind of saw some stuff that looked like, okay, they probably got their stuff the first time I watched it. And then I verified that tonight when I watched it.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, Elena is carrying a basket of things that that basically is the antibiotics, erythropoietin, which actually is a real medicine that helps people form red blood cells, although it really doesn't work quite like they're going to use it in this show.
Okay, so I have kind of a pseudo-medical question.
Okay.
I have heard on the interwebs that coconut milk can be used for platelet or blood transfusion, something like that.
I have no idea. So listeners, if you're thinking about trying this at home, don't do it.
I heard that it could be used as a substitute, not like, for your full body. You couldn't be like coconut milk, this is an Instagram, but but I heard that like there's maybe it's a derivative of coconut milk. I don't know.
So it may be a place of research, that we're constantly scientifically looking for volume expanders that act more like blood when we're transfusing people who have lost a lot of blood and we're not using whole blood. So it may be something that's in research, but I haven't read or heard anything about that.
Ah, okay.
Okay, your epic fail, because you're kind of leading, you're like dragging me toward my epic fail, and I'm trying not to just burst.
I really think my epic fail is going to have to be the whole Madison, and I want to say Madison turning on the light, but it's really Madison, like, almost screwing things up
just
with
blowing
the narcos.
It throughout,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, I just, again and again, she has no redeeming. I mean, like, it drove me so nuts, and she drags other people into it. I mean, Strand with his piano playing, and they're drinking and throwing glasses at the bar with their backs to these giant windows a couple of episodes ago. She drags everyone down.
Brian, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on, Eileen. Go stab Madison.
Okay, now I'm never going to be able to get that song out of my head ever again. I hate you.
You're welcome.
So my epic fail was actually the stabbing of Strand. And there are so many things about him getting stabbed that bothers me. But the first thing was something that you said early on, which is injuring and potentially killing the one character that I'm truly invested in was a really bad move.
Yeah.
I mean, Strand really is a big part of the reason where I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep watching this because Coleman Domingo and Victor Strand are cool.
So it's not even just like almost killing him, which they better not kill him, hobbling him, making him weaker. Like really, it hurt.
So the other thing is, and I got my chops busted a while ago for getting overly medical about Tara's brain injury a couple seasons ago in Walking Dead.
Oh, but that gets home, so...
Well, yeah. So, but this bothered me too. So the placement of the wound in Victor's gut. So when the kid who's got like a year and a half of medical school under his belt is like, oh, it doesn't look like they got any major organs. I'm looking at the placement and I'm like, okay, there's a spleen, which is a highly vascular organ right there. There's a kidney, which is a highly vascular organ, kind of in the same area. Move a little bit to the center, and there's an aorta, which is the biggest blood vessel in your body. So and even if major blood vessels or major vascular organs don't get impacted, there's the pancreas, which is responsible for producing insulin. There's intestine, which can kill you horribly because you end up with this horribly infected, wound that just takes you out in a horrible way. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Nothing vital was stabbed? Okay, number one, then why is he bleeding out? And number two, really?
Bleeding out fairly quickly, too, because, I mean, this is really, it's just a few hours, and, like, he's pretty ashy looking.
Yeah. No, and I did, that was the one thing that I thought was good about this, when they flashed on him in that scene where his lips are, like, blue, and they talked about the blue nail beds, I was like, okay, that's pretty good makeup. And that's a pretty good catch.
Yeah. when him and Alicia are talking, which was a really good scene, by the way.
Yeah, I actually really did like that moment of connection between the two of them, and his humor when he's like, "Okay, I take it back. You have a horrible bedside manner."
Well, and just Alicia saying what we all knew to begin with, that she kind of had to raise herself because, she had an alcoholic father and a drug abusing brother and a mother who was always trying to rescue everybody.
Yeah.
And so
except her.
Yeah, except her, which, yeah, we will get to that.
Well, which, it's really interesting because I was talking with a new friend today, and she was telling me that she actually grew up with a brother with cerebral palsy and a sister who had hypoplastic heart syndrome. So basically, one of her chambers in her heart was teeny, teeny, tiny and not very functional. And she said, I ended up being the wild kid that nobody looked after because my mom's energy was all about taking care of both of the kids who were ill or who had disability. And I kind of look at, I mentioned it last week when Brian and I were talking, and I'm going to say it again. I kind of look at Alicia that way. Nick took up so much energy with his drug use and his behavior that there was like nothing left for Alicia.
Yeah. And, it's not even just when there's any sort of drug abuse. It's if you have any sort of special needs child or a sick relative or anything like that. Because speaking as the youngest of 5 who was the sick child, I know that I got a lot of attention to the detriment of my siblings.
Although we have an older brother who constantly got all of the attention with his behavior.
The only boy, though, and the oldest. So
and always in trouble.
Yeah. But I have a really
but
good
not
friend.
that I have any issues around that at all.
I have a really good friend who's one of her daughters has like. She's one of those where she's like got peanut allergy and allergic to eggs and allergic to,
breathing, basically.
Everything. Red colored food coloring number 9 and and so and she has really bad asthma, and when she found that out, I looked at my friend and I'm like, oh my God, I am so sorry for you, knowing what my mother went through with me, and now like her daughter's a little bit older and she looks at me and she's like, okay, I get why, you've taken so much time off work, or that you never felt great, or, things. So like anytime there's a chronic illness or addiction or any sort of special needs in a family, it does just suck up all of the energy out of everybody. So yeah.
I just have to ask you, and this is totally off topic. Did you tell that woman not to have any more children?
She hasn't. She has 2 daughters, and
the
second daughter is the one with so
it's already, the damage is already done.
Yeah, it's like they stopped with me because they just knew they couldn't handle anymore, and my friend figured it out at 2.
Okay, so now we are really in the what's that stuff sticking to your foot? Rotting potpourri section.
Yep.
Although we've kind of been doing rotting potpourri the whole way through.
So I wrote something down. So this whole cult thing that Alejandro, yeah, he had a scene with Nick where he and Nick were kind of hashing things out,
right? And Nick was like, everybody's already loyal to you. Everybody already has faith in you. What are you going on about?
Right,
that scene.
So Nick was questioning him, and did you notice what Alejandro did?
No.
He threw him a bottle of water. Water's really scarce right now. Alejandro is always trying to buy his loyalty, and I think Brian was right last episode in that, giving him the trailer and
right, because Nick actually sees through him.
Yeah, Nick sees through him, absolutely. And there was this. Alejandro says, what lies beyond these walls is worse than death. Mm-hmm. What lies beyond these walls is a wasteland. And so Alejandro is desperately trying to cling to everything inside La Colonial. And he's trying to keep it together. And he had a scene, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but something to the effect of, I didn't choose this, it chose me.
Right.
You all are making
I never wanted to be the person who made all the decisions.
Yeah, and for a second, I kind of believed him. For a second, I'm like, okay, maybe in the beginning he was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess I am like the chosen one. I got bit and survived. But now he like, absolute power corrupts,
Yeah.
And so I see everything slipping through his hands, and it's like Brian said, everything that Nick touches just goes to crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, question I have for you: did you see Alejandro, doubting Luciana and saying, "Did you know about this? Are you trying to leave also?"
Yes.
And that was, and so, is it because he's paranoid about losing La Colonia, or is it because she now has an even stronger association with Nick, or is it both?
A little bit of both, but I think it's more that he's losing his grip on control.
He's kind of the natural inheritor of Celia's place.
Yes. Yes, and we saw that from the first episode. We saw him the way that Nick looked at him.
Right.
And I think Nick is starting to figure all this out, and he went from one addiction to another. He went from heroin to death, and now he's detoxing off death. He's over it.
That's interesting. What a good point.
Yeah. So.
Well, I have just a couple of random things in Rotting Potpourri. One is that I think it's the guys who do the Talking Dead podcast out of Canada. They have like zombie kill of the week in their podcast, and I always thought that was really funny. Ophelia gets zombie kill of the season. Because putting that hammer in that Zed's head and then splitting it open like rotten wood was really cool.
When did she become a straight up baddie?
Yeah, she did. She went from this meek little thing, and they even said it in the Talking Dead, who was wearing what they call her dress?
Baby doll dress.
Yeah. She went from that to a total badass, and that's like our one swear word for the whole episode.
I tried to keep it clean with baddie, but she went from living with her parents in the back of this barbershop, and I'm so sweet and innocent, to I'm going to seduce the army guy for more rations. And then now she's like kicking butt and siphoning gas.
And she's got this secret life that we didn't even know about. Yeah.
Yeah. When did this happen? Like, did she go to some sort of like Resident Evil school for bad chicks?
So the other thing that I wanted to say about Ophelia, though, because I think about this every time I write her name down, I think of Ophelia in Hamlet. Mm-hmm. And tonight I was like, duh. Ophelia in Hamlet is like the center of all of the tragedies. Her uncle Polonius is the guy who was stabbed behind the tapestry. She desperately loves Hamlet, and she ends up dying, and he ultimately ends up dying too. I mean, she's just tragedy, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, it totally makes sense that Ophelia is named Ophelia.
So that actually segues well into a bold prediction that I have, and
okay,
I did see this mentioned someplace else, and I can't remember if it was The Talking Dead or an article or something. But so in the end, we see Ophelia headed back to the United States,
right?
Which is where the Lost Boys said they were going to go, or Lord of the Flies. That's where they said that they were headed back to, but they were going to have some fun along the way. So is that how we get Chris back?
That is a good thought.
So does she meet up with them and talk some sense into Chris, or like, does Chris rescue her from these guys, or
or does she rescue Chris when he's about to get turned on by the Lord of the Flies?
Right. So
or is Chris the Lord of the Flies?
Piggy. So they are headed in the same direction. So, I think because we do have a lot of scattered storylines, and I know that is a huge rant that people have about this show but we did see that with Walking Dead Prime, and we all came back together in Terminus, but that's besides the point.
Right. So maybe you're right. Their hotel hell is going to be the terminus for this season or for the beginning of next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's like The Shining up there.
Because I do think that you're right. I mean, I think that all of the storylines are going to come back together at some point, and whether we're minus a character or 3, I think everyone is going to get drawn back into the main group.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't see them continuing the separate storylines.
Not for very long. I mean, I think they could probably keep 2 running. I think they could probably either keep Nick sidelined or they could keep Ophelia and Chris sidelined. But they really are going to have to start coalescing a bunch of these storylines all together. And we are only 2 episodes from the end of the season, so maybe that's our cliffhanger. Maybe everyone starts headed back towards the center.
And then season 3 opens with Terminus. Another callback.
And I keep thinking that the hotel hell is like The Shining, and like Eileen is gonna be like, "Here's Johnny."
Okay, and now I don't know if he listens, but this is a shout out to Jason Kabasi, who's one of the podcasters that does the Walking Dead cast. I really like that show too. He loves The Shining, so shout out Jason.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. So but like with Eileen, I forgot to mention this earlier. With Eileen, you have the 3 choices. You can cast her out, you can kill her, or you can keep her prisoner forever. And okay, casting her out is not an option in my boat, because if you're cast out of somewhere, what is the first thing you're going to do when you come up on somebody who's like, "We're going to rob you"? I'm going to be like, "Hey, no, there's a place way back there," right?
Right. And so basically,
you can't cast somebody out.
Casting her out turns into, she either becomes a threat as a zombie, which she's not a huge threat, or she becomes a threat as somebody who meets the governor. Yeah, I agree.
Right. So, but I think that's kind of how we're gonna coalesce the storylines. Is Ophelia headed north, meets up with Chris. Travis comes back to the hotel, and Nick gets fed up with Alejandro and drags Luciana along with him.
Or they get hooked up through the supermarket and the narcos and that whole storyline.
Yeah, because the narcos did mention that they weren't going to be there for much longer.
Right. And, the head guy was like, "If you come back, I'll kill you."
Yeah. So are they headed for La Colonial?
Well, that's what I think. I think they're headed to take down La Colonia. Absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is that the question that I wrote down when Francisco and his family were trying to escape at the very beginning was, okay, who are they afraid of? Because they said it's not safe anymore. Are they afraid of Los Muertos? Are they afraid of the narcos? Or are they afraid of Alejandro?
I think they're afraid of Alejandro.
Well, I do too. Although I think that because of Francisco working in the market, they may well know that the narcos are planning a takedown of La Colonia at some point in the near future.
Yeah, especially considering Francisco was supposed to make a delivery.
He was supposed to deliver the oxy. Yeah.
Right. So he knew, and didn't Luciana say that they were followed, or they were followed for a while or something? And so I really think between if his daughter did have an illness, or if he thought that they were in some sort of danger that way, that he was just like, "Look, now the narcos are after us.
Right.
He's out." You know? So.
Well,
yeah, so.
I don't have a whole lot left. Do you have anything else you want to say about this episode?
The only thing is I absolutely loved Alicia's rant. Oh.
At her mom?
Yes. When she told Madison everything that all of us were thinking for nearly 2 seasons.
Right.
I was like yelling at the TV. I was so happy for her, and I can't wait to see the fallout. But again, I don't think it got through to Madison.
I don't either, because I think
I have no hope for her.
Yeah. The only thing she sees is Nick.
Yep.
I mean, to the point where, you think she's got some affection for Strand. Like the way she was gripping his hand after he was injured, I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And then it's like, but then it's like, no, she completely, totally loses sight of getting help for Strand when she hears someone talking about a gringo with ratty hair. You
and Brian think that her and Strand have something going, right?
He's a seducer of people.
Okay, but
I'm not convinced that they do, but I think there's the potential that they could.
He had a boyfriend.
But he said he's a seducer of people.
Okay.
He didn't say he was a seducer of men.
I'm just pointing that out. It came to a little shock to me when he had a boyfriend, and I was happy to see that. Right on.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I see it, but I'm like, that would be an interesting twist to make him bisexual. So,
having had many bisexual people in my life, it wouldn't shock me at all. It would be a cool twist, but it wouldn't shock me a bit. Especially because I think Strand has, for a long time, viewed the world as a place that he can navigate through relationships. And it doesn't really matter who is the other participant in the relationship as long as it produces some kind of gain for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that he's a better person than that. I think you're absolutely right. He's the huckster with the heart of gold. But I think, he also sees the world as a never-ending series of who he can make gains with next.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I could see him, I don't want to say ambiguous. It's almost kind of a pansexual thing where he's more attracted to the person than the gender.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I have a dear, dear friend who was married twice and she's now involved with and has been with a woman for a really long time. And she said, the thing is it wouldn't have mattered what body this person showed up in.
Right.
And I think Victor is kind of like that.
Yeah. I could see him being enlightened like that. That's our character of the week again.
Yeah. So sorry guys, I know we're getting a little deep there, but
I just for this entire season, you and Brian have been like, ooh, Strand and Madison. I'm like, no, just because I can't even see how Travis is attracted to Madison.
Well, but the other thing is that power attracts power. And who's the strongest person in Madison's group?
Strand. But
before Strand became a part of that group, when you look at Travis, Alicia, Chris, and Madison, who's the person who is the powerful one in that family?
For who? Strand would be, right?
No. Before Strand. So if you're looking at the immediate family, Chris and Madison and the kids. I mean, Madison is absolutely the one who wears the pants.
Yeah. Her decision making is so awful that I can't get past it. But Travis is he's kind of a pushover Nancy.
Yeah. Which may have changed, but
the look on his face at the end of that episode, he has seen some stuff.
Yes, he looks like he's pretty much lost it.
Yeah.
I wrote down that he looked feral.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I really wonder what he was thinking when he saw the hotel lights. I really don't think that he was thinking Madison, but I think it was kind of one of those things where, it was kind of a beacon in the night,
Sanctuary, Esmeralda, sanctuary.
That's funny.
All right. So we're right at an hour.
Woohoo.
And I'm going to be totally lame and say that I have to prepare for a professional conference. So I just want to see if there's anything else you want to say before we go.
No, other than join us on the good word.
The good news.
The good news. Formerly the word. It was the word for a whole episode before I was on it. Now it's the good news. not because anybody else had taken the word or anything.
I believe that Rob actually found another podcast out there with the name The Word, and there are several religious podcasts out there that, not about preacher, but several religious ones that use that kind of language. So,
and we wouldn't want to be confused with a religious podcast. 'Cause I try really, really hard to be non-offensive to the religiously inclined, but sometimes it's a little difficult, but I'm thinking that anybody who is watching Preacher and listening to a podcast on Preacher is not going to be super religious to begin with.
Or at least not traditionally religious.
Right. So I try to harp on all religions equally.
Okay, Bill Maher.
Oh, see, I was thinking South Park. South Park's hit them all.
Right on.
So, but join us on the good news, and like us, share us, talk to us on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you guys.
And you're going to be with us for a couple of more episodes of Biters because Brian is doing a lot of traveling.
Yeah,
over the next couple of weeks. So
give Diane's little sister a little feedback.
Yeah, give her a little love, you guys. Yeah. She's pretty awesome.
So let me know if I was the co-host of Last Resort, or if you guys want to hear from me again.
Brutal. I actually have really enjoyed podcasting with you. It's become a really enjoyable thing for me. So
it has. I look forward to it.
Yes. All right. Well, so just remember, have you listened to this part of the podcast?
I have.
Just remember to take it
one dead day at a time. Not as good as you and Brian are getting. We'll get there.
All right. So have a good week.
Good week. 2 more weeks, Fear the Walking Dead. 5 more weeks, Walking Dead Prime.
Less than 5.
Now it's less than 5.
All right. Good night.
Good night, guys.